campaign has been one of the ugliest, most disgusting campaign against me that I've ever witnessed. We had an opponent that was willing to align with literal Nazis in order to defeat us. We had an opponent that weaponized and scandalized my husband, my daughter, my dead father.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
Representative Ilhan Omar successfully beat primary challenger Don Samuels in Minnesota's 5th. This is the 3rd time she has done so for her seat. Again, she is a Progressive Squad member, and there she is talking about just how dirty of a campaign this was. Attacks on her husband, on her daughter, and on her deceased father, in fact. She, of course, has historically, throughout her entire time in Congress, been targeted for being Muslim, for wearing hijab, and of course now for calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. She has been one of the most outspoken proponents of peace and truly just honestly just an inspiration to so many of us. But this time around in this election, although previous elections, she had massive Israeli lobby money spent against her, specifically through AIPAC. This time it didn't come. There was a lot of funds, but not in the same way, and not in the same way that we saw against Representatives Cori Bush and Representative Jamal Bowman, who had 18 million and 35 million, respectively, spent on their races, 2 of the most expensive primary races in American history. But according to CNN, the United Democracy Project, which is a super PAC aligned with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, that has spent tens of millions targeting other progressive Democrats this cycle, did not engage in the race. AIPAC directly spent about $25,000 on digital ad campaigns last year targeting Omar, an outspoken critic of Israel, but it has not been active in the 2024 contest. Again, there was still referencing her point there in the beginning where she said that my opponent would even ally with themselves with white nationalists. There was a group and there was donations from pro-Israel supporters. There was a leak of that group chat that, thanks to The Intercept, we have seen, and in it, a wealthy entrepreneur who actually lives in Puerto Rico who raised $120,000 for Samuels' campaign through his PAC Make a Difference Minnesota. His name is Michael Sineski. He said this in that group chat, quote, "The bottom line is, and it's a sad one, we need to be supportive on a presidential level of the alt-right Christian neo-Nazis at the moment to fight off the socialist Marxist anarchists who are supporting radical Islam. Nazis are better than Islamic terrorists at this moment in time for president. On the state and city level, it's different, as proof with us supporting Richie and Fetterman, a reference to Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, and then Richie Torres." This is just wild. But before I can get to you, Mondale, on why Ilhan Omar was successful in this campaign, it's also important to know that she did have support from Minnesota's junior senator, Tina Smith. In other words, the call wasn't coming from within the building, trying to unseat her, along with her predecessor, former Representative Keith Ellison, who is now the state's attorney general. Mondale, what is your assessment for why Ilhan Omar was able to pull this out? I've seen a lot of takes. I've seen the takes, the fact that she was a state senator or a state representative right before becoming elected to Congress. She had maybe more support, more backing. Maybe AIPAC ran out of money. What do you make of her being able to shirk this primary challenger?
I mean, like, listen, there are stark differences between Bowman's district in New York, also Bush's district in Missouri, and then also this district in Minnesota. First of all, this 5th district, the support of Keith Ellison means a lot. People might sleep on that. That used to be his district before he left. And that district actually is one of the highest performing turnout-wise, voting districts in this country, congressional districts in this country. That matters when you look at the low turnout of Black and brown people in Bush's race versus and also Bowman's race. Then the amount of money, $14.5 million was spent in Bowman's race and nearly $20 million in Bush race against them by AIPAC. That means a lot, especially in a state like New York, where you have to be registered almost a year before you can participate in the primary. So I think all of those are factors. But I will also go and say that the campaign ran by Ilhan Omar was different than that ran by Jamal Bowman. I reached out to Bowman early on in this year. Like, listen, you have 30,000 Black men in your district that you can't afford not to participate, that have been sitting out elections, and they, using the Justice Democrat is not going to work. It's not worked in the past. And we see the ramifications when you're running these campaigns that are ad heavy, but not knocking on doors in the way that they should. All of those are factors in the outcome of this election.
Yeah. And just a plug for the Black Male Voter Project that Mondale has, launched. And I think that's really, that's some tough love. That's really important to remember. Here is sort of what Ilhan Omar was touting to her constituents. Take a look at part of her ad.
She passed the Meals Act to feed school kids and brought $54 million right here to our community to create food security, affordable housing, healthcare access, environmental projects, and living wage jobs.
So there you go. You're right. Talking about food security, housing, access to jobs and whatnot, environmental projects. I had a specific sum of money that was laid out there. That's important. And now, granted, she has been in Congress for longer. She has more time to be able to deliver on those wins. But it is really important to stay in your district. It's hard to even say, Mondale, because for me, like, I can backseat this. I don't know what it is to run for Congress and to maintain your congressional seat and to run up against so much hate and so much, so many lies told about you. But I could say like, oh, you got to spend more time in the district. I don't even know what that means when you're staring down $18 million spent against you and 35 in Bowman's case. But it's just hard. I mean, another thing maybe that helped Omar out, and she did put this on her website was that Joe Biden endorsed her, liked her. She highlighted on her website a quote from Biden saying, "Congresswoman Omar, I want to thank you for being here." Biden said during a 2023 visit to Minnesota, "You never stop working to level the playing field for everybody, and you make sure no child goes hungry." So that's something. And yes, we did not see that same level of support for Cori Bush and for Jamal Bowman, but I am so glad that Congresswoman Omar has maintained her seat and that we still have a voice for peace, representing us.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that it also matters that we have these outstanding voices, and we don't do what we know is problematic for our candidates or our vulnerable candidates. And what I mean by that is, if you look back what we were doing, i.e., Nancy Pelosi's pick in California for Senate, using Republican money to support the candidate running against a progressive, that is a problem. That is a problem. When Katie Porter lost that race, we also have to look at our infrastructure and how we supported Republicans spending dollars on, Democrats spending dollars on Republican candidates. It is a dirty tactic. It also tells us why we need to get to an election cycle that is funded not by raising millions and tens of millions of dollars, but instead by raising public funds. And once you get enough signatures, let the people pay for it, and that's it.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Number one is just getting money out of politics, and we need a fighting chance. We still have to fight. And there's different ways, and there's more stealth ways. People can reach out to voters, as Mondale said, going door to door, texting friends. It doesn't always have to happen by, big expensive campaigns, ad buys and flyers, but it sure helps, right? It sure helps.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.